Well, welcome in wherever you are around the world for live coverage of the 24th tour of magnificent Qinghai. It is stage 6 we bring you for the final 2 hours. But yesterday was stage 5, and it was an incredibly tough stage which would see the riders go up as high as 12,500 feet. As expected, the peloton would be, well, fairly pedestrian, most of them just simply wanting to survive the first part of this climb. As expected, there'd always be a group of riders who would look to try and get away and pick up the valuable sprint ace points. The nomadic tribesmen of this people coming out and showing their full colours, enjoying the colour, enjoying the excitement that goes with professional road cycling. Stadi looking to try and get into the initial breaks. For Guillermo Silva, the race leader, and the man who won this race 2 years ago, and arguably Guillermo Silva's biggest challenge to this year's race, Henok Mulubrhan, were marking each other throughout the day. Mulubrhan did get into an initial break and got up to about a 30-second lead. A little bit of panic, a little bit of urgency coming from the Caja rural team, coming from the team of Guillermo Silva. But eventually the peloton would go to work, and most of the brakes would be shut down. Good performance coming from one of the 7 riders from Eritrea, Mwawi Kudus, picking up valuable King of the Mountain points. When it ultimately came down to a sprint finish, it would be a wonderful day for Carlos Garcia of Petrolite by the smallest of margins over Astana's Henok Mulubrhan. Guillermo Silva picking up 3rd, meaning that Mulubrhan would pull back 2 seconds on Guillermo Silva heading into stage 6. Good performance there from the New Zealander Aaron Gate, finishing 4th. And so as we head into day 6, it is Guillermo Silva who leads the tour by 8 seconds over Henok Mulubrhan of Astana. Sitting in 3rd, Jonathan Casado of Petrolite. Wonderful opportunity for the people of Gangcha to enjoy the ceremony and the traditions that go with the professional sport of road cycling. Culti visit Malta, well, they have been an incredibly aggressive team throughout this entire tour. They'll be looking to try and get Manuel Pineda back into the green Sprint Ace jersey, a jersey that he held after day 1 after winning the first stage. One opportunity today for Henok Mulubrhan to try and steal this tour, try and get himself into the yellow jersey. It'll come up the Luho Yakao mountain at about 185 kilometres. That is where the focus will be for the Astana team. And from the Hyundai Hotel cycling team, the leading Asian rider, Saeed Savradeh of Iran. It's been a wonderful tour for Li Ning Star, another one of the Chinese trade teams, with both the King of the Mountain jersey on the shoulder of Simon Palou and the Green Ace Sprint jersey on the Danish rider Alexander Selby. Yesterday's stage winner, what a remarkable performance for him. A life-changing moment for Guillermo, for Carlos Garcia. They were brilliant on the front of the train towards the end of a very difficult stage. Temperature today, 16 degrees, but mercury is rising in the Finnish town of Gonghe, with temperatures well into the mid-20s. Not a lot of wind, and what is predominantly a flat stage where crosswinds can cause havoc. In fact, tailwind for much of today's stage. And our King of the Mountains leader, and thoroughly deserved too, Simon Pallot of Leading Star, the Swiss rider, so aggressive in stages 3 and 4. Saeed Savradeh of Iran, the leading Asian rider in this year's tour, one of 2 Iranian riders. And he has been brilliant in most of the sprint finishes. Alexander Selby having 1 stage win, a 2nd and a 3rd. And Guillermo Silva, the man who finished 2nd last year, riding for Caja Rural, leads this year's tour. Last year, it was his fellow teammate, Jefferson Cepeda, who would beat him by 1 minute and 31 seconds. Cepeda not in this year's race, an opportunity for Guillermo Silva to go one better, and for Caja Rural to defend the title they won last year. Wonderful reception as the riders left the town of Gangcha. But with this stage being predominantly flat for most of the 232.7 kilometres, there was always going to be the opportunity for riders to try and go up the road early. "22 teams in all started this year's tour of magnificent Qinghai, 154 riders. That has been severely reduced, with this race being one of the highest altitude stage races in the world, where riders must be comfortable with the head above the clouds. And a look at this year's stage, well, 232 kilometres, where for 185 kilometres of it, it is predominantly flat. Tailwind behind the riders, the occasional crosswind, but all the action will happen in the last 40 kilometres, with one climb that could ultimately determine the outcome of this year's race. The Lohi Mountain, just over 7 kilometres, at around a 7% gradient. They will take in the magnificent Qinghai Lake, largest salt lake in China. It'll be a predominantly downhill finish into the town of Gonghe. 232.7 kilometres, 180 kilometres of hope, 52.7 kilometres of truth. And so today's points on offer. First sprint points came at 64 kilometres. Second sprint A stage at 100.5. The third of the sprint A stages at 164.8. Just the one King of the Mountains points stage up for grabs at the top of the Luhai Yaku climb. 9 points for the first rider across the line at the top of that hill. 7 for second. Points going right down to 1 point for the sixth rider over. King of the Mountain is interesting. Simon Pallot leads from leaning start, but it'll be John Aguirre of Uska who'll be looking to try and close the gap. He sits 8 points back on 21. As they do begin to start the climb, it's been a tough day for 4 riders who have gone clear. Tali Lane Walsh for Cache Body Wrap. Roman Shishkiku for Leaning Star. The oldest man in the tour this year, Yauhi Zobel, riding for Chengdu DYC cycling team. He is 44 years of age. A remarkable bike rider, the man who was a 5-time national champion in his home nation of Belarus. The other man in the break all day is Cyrus Monk, second of 2 Australians along with Tali Lane Walsh. Cyrus Monk riding for another one of the Chinese trade teams, the Phoenix Scom Hengshang cycling team. But as they still start to approach the climb, this is where things are going to start to hurt. This is when things start to get ugly. Cyrus Monk doing a good job on the front of the peloton. Sitting back there, the 44-year veteran, Raman Shishkiko. Shishkiko, the second of the Belarus riders, my apology, at 30 years of age. Simon Palor, the man in the King of the Mountains jersey, burnt a lot of matches early on in this tour. He'll just be hoping that those trying to take that King of the Mountains jersey off his shoulders will not be good enough to grab the valuable points to close the gap, knowing that opportunities will start to run out for those riders looking to challenge him. The likes of John Aguirre, Hassan Saif Foliafard, second of the Iranian riders. Of course, Petros Mengs riding for ex-Istanbul. This was earlier. So 4 has now come down to 2, and that was earlier today. Shishkiko picking up the maximum 5 sprint ace points. Cyrus Monk, the Australian, 3. Second of the Australians, Tali Lane Walsh, picking up UCI points. Did a good job, these 4. Average speed at 48 kilometres an hour. Out to 7 minutes at one point over the peloton. Peloton now have decided to get into gear just 1 minute 15 seconds back. Second sprint, again, it was Shishkiko who picked up 5. Monk picking up a valuable 3. Not a lot of urgency in terms of contesting those particular sprints. Riders probably have had a little bit of an agreement between themselves as we now start to see the Australian Cyrus Monk in a little bit of difficulty, and to just the one rider, and that is Raman Shishkiko of Li Ning Star. What a tour it's been for them. Currently hold the Sprint Ace green jersey, the King of the Mountains jersey. They've had riders and breaks throughout this entire week. Li Ning, a very big sports brand here in China. A couple of crashes earlier today as well, more probably just through fatigue and a lack of concentration. And the peloton staying together. Doesn't take much. Mechanics doing a great job in terms of changing the wheels. They were the riders involved in the crash a little earlier today. And now this peloton going to start to come apart on this very, very difficult climb. Astana looking to just drive things, but it's the team that won the stage yesterday. And what a wonderful day it was for the Petro-like boys, predominantly Mexican team. Carlos Garcia by the smallest of margins over that man sitting there in the white jersey with the yellow, green and black stripes, the African Continental Champion Henok Mulubrhan. Absolutely nothing in that sprint finish. In fact, they did have to go to the photo. It was Guillermo Silva, the leader of the to it in the yellow jersey. He ended up third, so Henok Mulubrhan pulled back 2 seconds to sit now just 8 seconds back of Guillermo Silva. Opportunity on this climb though for Henok Mulubrhan to look to try and attack, to see if he can try and conjure up some sort of break, put the Caja Rural boys and Guillermo Silva in the hurt box. As we do a flyover magnificent Qinghai Lake, and you can just see the damage that this climb is doing. Lihoi Yaku climb, 6.2 kilometres, 7.3% average, so at points it'll go 8 to 9%. And just starting to come undone at the back. Can be a brutal sport at times. There are the boys from the Factor Racing team. Got one of the National Road Racing Champion of New Zealand, Paul Wright, a member of that Factor Racing team, did crash yesterday. Not sure whether Paul has got himself back into the race today. One very aggressive rider, Anish Kolmach, has been superb for Factor Racing. Muscatelli Stadi in the orange, sitting comfortably in the middle of this lead group. But the pain train is on its way. Henok Mulubrhan sitting fourth wheel. Guillermo Silva in yellow sitting fifth. They are marking each other. Another little rise comes. Another little attack here. Just dancing on the pedals, just putting a little bit more pressure on. The team from Petro-like. The Astana boys. One rider from Astana there looking to try and support Henok Mulubrhan. Might be very impressive. Martín López. Stunning scenery in the background. They know that if they can survive this climb, it's pretty much downhill through to the finish. It will come down to a sprint finish, very similar to what we saw yesterday, with not necessarily the pure sprinters involved, and who ultimately end up taking the stage might just be a repeat of Henok Mulubrhan and Guillermo Silva, and obviously Carlos Garcia, who won the stage yesterday. But back at the front of the bike race is still that one lone rider. That is Raman Shishkaku of Leaning Star. Man from Belarus. And so you can just see the damage that this climb has done on the rest of the peloton. Cyrus Monk there, the Australian, he'll be caught shortly, so really just for Cyrus an opportunity just to sit up, try and recover as much as he can, and then try and just get himself into that middle of the peloton. As we just see another little surge coming at the front of this race, and Henok Mulubrhan, Guillermo Silva, few gaps just starting to open up, more damage being done. Muscatelli Stadi, boy, you've got to have a head like granite. You've got to be tough to do this sport. It is brutal, folks. Razor blades attacking the lungs, bonfires in the legs, trying to get oxygen in any way you can, and some bike riders will say that almost breathing through their eyelids. Let's give you an idea, close to 11,000 feet. And now we see an attack go from Henok Mulubrhan, and Guillermo Silva cannot go, so Mulubrhan is looking to go. This is the big significant race here. 8 seconds separates the two of them. Henok Mulubrhan looking to try and see if he can get a break on the peloton. Will it be significant enough if he can get to the top here and then try and work as a threesome, possibly a foursome, and take it all the way through? So Henok Mulubrhan, the man from Eritrea, has made his move, trying to gap The great Guillermo Silva from Caja Rural, seeing if this will be the break that could launch him into the yellow jersey with just 2 stages remaining and repeat what he did 2 years ago and win the Tour. So Guillermo Silva in a bit of trouble. Wonderful, wonderful attack from the boys from Astana. One rider from Petro-like. Settle back, folks. Here we go. Only really the one opportunity today. Limited opportunities in the days coming. Guillermo Silva in trouble. The peloton is small. They know at the top of the climb that it's going to be a run through to the finish. Henok Mulubrhan has a rider with him from Astana. Guillermo Silva, can he get back on? Can he find some second win? Can he ride himself back into that group? "11,000 feet. You've got to be comfortable with your head above the clouds here, folks. When you think that the body makes a physiological change at 2,000 feet. You've got your heart rate incredibly high already, and you're in a permanent state of hypoxia. The man at the front of the bike race, looking to try and pick up maximum King of the Mountain points. 9 valuable points today. He's been superb. Is Raman Shishku from Belarus. He was second at the Belarus Time Trial Championships back at an under 23 level back in 2015. He's been a good, solid rider. Still waiting for that breakthrough performance. You can just see the fatigue. Really, his form just starting to fall apart, which is always a sign that you're in trouble. But have a look at the brutality of the climb. Where is Guillermo Silva? Has he caught Henok Mulubrhan? Has the race come back together? But just a few cracks in our yellow jersey leader. But he might have done enough to bring it back. The Petro-like boys still continue to drive the pain train. Guillermo Silva still struggling. Henok Mulubrhan there. But Silva not that far back. These are the riders at the front of the bike race. Henok Mulubrhan from Eritrea, the African continental champion in the white, the yellow, the green and the black. What a street fighter, what a warrior. And now he looks to try and go. He looks to continue just to put Guillermo Silva into the hurt box. He looks over his shoulder, he says, "You're looking a little bit hungry there, Guillermo. I'm about to feed you a little bit more hurt." No, it's a beautiful thing. It's a brutal sport at times. It can be incredibly barbaric. I think Henok Mulubrhan will say to the Petro-like boys, "Tell you what, lads, if we can get over the climb here, I'm happy to give you the stage victory if you're prepared to work for me, if we can somehow gap Guillermo Silva." But you can just see the gradient here. They are in their easiest gears. Small chain ring on the front, largest cog at the back. They are weaving across the road. Look at the altitude, folks. We're at 12,000 feet and continuing to climb. It's literally like someone's throwing a hand grenade in the middle of the peloton and just blowing them across the road. Silva's still hanging tough though. The man from Caja Rural. Uskatelli sitting on his wheel. And then another rider from Astana. And I just wonder, it is John Ageri from Uskatelli who currently sits in 5th place. But Henok Mulubrhan has said, "Look, I'll continue to drive it." Guillermo Silva, just how tough is he though? You cannot coach this, folks. This is an inherent quality. Wonderful race beginning to develop here on stage 6. 180 kilometres of predominantly just flat with a tailwind. 185 kilometres. Well, welcome to the hurt box. And it's a dark place. It's who can stay there the longest, throw the key away. I often say in bike riding, the rider that will win is the rider that is prepared to suffer the most. So, rider there from Astana is Florian Caja. Number 62, just in a bit of difficulty. And that is Mattia Panazzi, the Italian riding for VF Group Bardiani. Henok Mulubrhan continues to attack, continues to say, put some momentum on. I'll grab some King of the Mountain points if I can. I'll pick up the maximum 9. Look at him go. What an athlete. Wow, what a performance. It might not be enough on the descent, but he's made a statement. Don't underestimate the psychology of it all with 2 stages to go. He wants to try and live rent-free in the head of Guillermo Silva. He's saying to himself, I might not be in yellow, but I still believe I'm the best rider in this race at the moment. Henok Mulubrhan. Fourth last year, won the Sprint Ace jersey. He's the complete bike rider. They'll be so relieved here to see the top of the climb. It'll be Mulubrhan who picks up maximum points. John Arguri there looking from Euskaltel Ustadi. He knows that if he can go across the line in second place, it's going to be a very, very close race for the King of the Mountains jersey with Simon Pelot, who started the day in the polka dot. Nowhere to be seen today. And now the downhill. We're down to about 6 riders. Fascinating stuff. Blue jersey there for the leading Asian rider, Saeed Sevrade. The man who rides for the Hyundai Hotel cycling team is in blue. Now we look at the small group. Another little niggly little climb. Eight riders. The peloton has been absolutely decimated up that climb. Santiago Umba from Astana is there. Euskaltel Ustadi, possibly John Aguirre. Henok Mulubrhan. 2 riders from Petrolite. You can see a lot of these riders, they're looking to the heavens, but he's not going to help you today. And there is the man in the polka dot. The Swiss rider, Simon Pelot of Leaning Star. Seven points up for grabs today at the top of that climb. Going back to the King of the Mountains category, John Aguirre, if he did cross the line in second place, might just be 1 point now back on Simon Pelot. He started on 21 points, Pelot on 29. I'll have to confirm the King of the Mountain points for you. In fact, it was Jonathan Casido who was the second Euskaltel Ustadi rider over the climb. So we'll try and confirm those riders for you in this front group. So the two riders will be Jonathan Casido and Edison Calais. So Jonathan Casido sitting third on GC. Man from Petrolite. So in that loot group, we can confirm now that we've got Martín López of Astana, Henok Mulubrhan of Astana, John Agedi of Euskaltel Ustadi, Jochen Megerde of Euskaltel Ustadi, Guillermo Silva of Caja Rural, and then Jonathan Casido, Edison Calais of Petrolike. This group here desperately trying to bridge the gap. Number 7 for Astana is Santiago Umba. Number 81 for Team Polti, Visit Malta, is Ludovico Crisioli, the Italian. Wonderful performance here from Saeed Savraday, the Iranian. Such a strong bike rider. Savraday, well, he's a two-time winner of the Tour of Iran, Azerbaijan. He's a three-time national champion of his country, three-time national time trial champion of his country as well, of Iran. He's got his fellow Iranian in the race too, Hassan Saifullah Hifad. A remarkable thing about Saeed Savraday, he is 39 years of age. Mentioned earlier that the oldest rider in the tour was on a break for much of the day, Johan Sobel from the Chengdu cycling team at 44 years of age. The youngest rider in this year's tour is the young Australian Will Heath, just 18 years of age. Well, riding for the Caja body wrap team, so big future ahead of him for the young man, just learning the craft at a professional level. Now, this will potentially come down to a sprint for the stage victory. How much hurt in the legs of Guillermo Silva? Ten-second time bonus for the winner of the stage. Henok Mulubrhan will be looking to try and grab the stage victory. He is 8 seconds back on Guillermo Silva. He'll be hoping that Silva finishes towards the back of this group. Unlikely. Third yesterday in the sprint. Outstanding sprinter as well. Jonathan Casido from Petrolite is 10 seconds back, so 2 seconds behind Henok Mulubrhan. 10 seconds back on Guillermo Silva. Also has the ability of winning the stage. The top 3 GC riders are in this group. Fascinating stuff. And this is the chase group. Kipo Kern Farmer is the team trying to do the work on the front of this group to try and close up. In fact, might be possibly the third group on the road. We will try and confirm that for you. It is the second group on the road at the moment. So nice work being done by all three. As I saw Martín López for Astana. A lot of people picked as probably the favourite to win this race. Really now in the role of supporting Henok. Mulubrhan, number 12, coming through for Unbeaten Stadi is Jochen Miguel. Miguel's an interesting rider, 25 years of age, out of Spain. 6th on GC last year in this race. Looking for that big breakthrough victory. He's come close at a 4th on a stage last year here. He was 9th on GC at the Volta a Portugal back in 2022. 6th in the Tour of Bulgaria back in 2020. So Jochen Miguel today, riding well for Unbeaten Stadi. Joined there also by John Argetti, who is looking to challenge for the King of the Mountain points. Currently sitting second. Rolling through nicely, Alex Tollio for VF Group Bardiani. Tollio, 25 years of age. Up a 4th place in a stage in the Tour of Slovenia back in 2022. As we see the remnants of the main peloton getting to the top of the summit, and they'll just be happy to ride through to the finish line and wake up tomorrow and fight another day. Tough day. Put it at sea level. Maybe not so tough. Put it at 12,000 feet above sea level, and it is absolutely brutal. Now these riders here, the roads do just start to become a little bit more rural by the high standards of the roads here in China, so just need to be a little bit more mindful as we look at the chase group. 153, and that is Changxing Sun, rider out of China for the China Anta Mentec cycling team. Edison Calais, number 123 for Petrolite. Alejandro Casillas. He's a 24-year-old born in Bogota in Colombia. On a stage in Giro del Bruso earlier in the year. 3rd in the King of the Mountains at that same race. He's had 2 8th place finishes at the Vuelta of Colombia, so he is an athlete who is comfortable with his head above the clouds. Jonathan Casido sitting there, number 121, outstanding bike rider, the man from Ecuador, Pan American champion in the road race back in 2016, won a stage in the Giro d'Italia back in 2020, 3-time national road champion of Ecuador. So there's some real quality in this group of leading riders. And it is Guillermo Silva of Caja Rural. Then this group on the road, 34 seconds back, trying to bridge the gap. I think Astana might just be happy at the moment, just sitting there, disrupting, not coming through to the front, not doing a lot of work. So we've got 2 boys up the road. We're quite happy to keep it in a small group. Tell you what though, it's been impressive on this tour for the team from Petrolite. One of just these niggly little climbs. There's still one to come too, another little spike that'll come approximately around 216, 217 kilometre mark, and they're literally going to have about 15 kilometres to go. Just running through that Petro-like team. When you do have a look at Edison, Calais, good strong bike rider. You've got Hazo Prito in this race as well. Another good Spanish climber. Young rider. Jonathan Casado. Well, he is the veteran. As mentioned, has won a stage in the Giro d'Italia. You've got Edgar David Cadilla, Mexican climber, under 23 national champion in his home country. So that is the pain train, folks. And it's an absolute carnage on what has been predominantly a flat stage. So started at just under 3,000 metres at around about 10,000 feet. And at the top of the Lujo Yako climb, 6.2 kilometres at an average gradient of 73%. Well, up to as high as almost 12,000 feet. Now coming back down, I can tell you that the finish line sits at 9,470 feet above sea level. As we just have a look at the riders having a technical problem, possibly. No. Trying to make a little bit of a mechanical problem here. Possibly a problem with the rear derailleur. It will be difficult. Will require a very quick change and then hopefully try and jump between the team vehicles and see if we can use the slipstream there for brief moments to ride his way back into the bunch. Kipo Kern Farmer is the team on the front driving this chase group. Includes the likes of Ivan Cobo, one of the Spanish riders, Ibon Ruiz, another very good climber, described himself as a bit of a breakaway specialist. You just see there's not a margin for error. There is a big lip on the side of the road here. 35 seconds still a gap. Just over 30 kilometres remaining. Might be big. Just trying to pick out the Burgos rider there. Be interesting to see what the Astana boys do here. Just can't imagine that they're going to come through and do any work with two riders up the road, and that is exactly the case, just acting almost as just a disruptor. So 7 riders in this lead group. Martín López from Astana, Henok Mulubrhan, Janagiri from Euskaltel Stadi, Jochen Megere from Euskaltel Stadi, Guillermo Silva from Caja Rural, and then we've got Jonathan Casado and Edison Alejandro Calais of this very, very good, predominantly Mexican outfit who won stage 5 yesterday, Petro-like. And we know they are clearly comfortable with their head above the clouds. Oh, just a little bit of a touch. A little bit of a lack of concentration. Got to be careful. Alex Taleo was the rider there from VF Group Bardiani, 25-year-old, who was known as a bit of a GC rider. Still waiting for that breakthrough victory. Did finish 4th in a stage in the Tour of Slovenia back in 2022. Another one of just these niggly little climbs that'll just tap into the fast twitch, just burn a few more matches. You can just have a look in the background. So the Soigniers out there on the course. This is the chase group. Petro-like team on the front. They will be talking to each other to some degree. Just go back there. Always nice to have a look at the mechanics of the bikes these days. A lot of engineering going into them. Well, we've talked a lot about over the last 3 or 4 days about the change and much wider tyres these days from the riders. A lot less air pressure than historically what used to be considered maximum performance, almost a complete shift. Part of that is to softer tyres, wider tyres. They roll a little bit better, but they also absorb a lot more of, or prevent a lot more vibration running through the body of the athletes, which also prevents fatigue. They'll all have their bike computers on, which will be giving them their power output every time they turn the pedals based on wattage. And ultimately, what they'll be trying to do is trying to ride at 4 or 5 watts per kilogram of body weight for these elite cyclists. 3 is considered good. If you can hold that for an hour, and obviously when they get into the sprint mode, they'll be going anywhere up to 700 to 1100 watts, depending on the sprinter. They'll be working that in with their heart rates. They'll be basing that on training zones. Alexander Selby here, the man in the sprinters green ace jersey. Green ace sprinters jersey, and just going back and having a look at that points classification. There's Guillermo Silva, who at the moment is on 47 points. Alexander Selby on 43. Manuel Peneva on 39. So Guillermo Silva can't be in yellow and green, so Alexander Selby has the green jersey on his shoulders. Henok Mulubrhan sits currently 4th in that category. He won the jersey last year. He would have felt like that was second prize. He came here to win, ended up 4th overall. I think last year it was Jefferson Cepeda from Caja who won the Tour, Guillermo Silva from Caja second. Then it was the brilliant Manuele Tarosi from Group Bardiani. And then it was Henok Mulubrhan, and then a group of Spanish riders, including Mario Aprizio, Joaquim Aguirre, who finished 4th and 6th respectively. This magnificent part of northeastern China, here in borders Qinghai Lake, the largest salt lake in China. It is a fascinating part of the world. Do get a chance, go to salt lakes of Caja and have a look at some of the wonderful carvings and sculptures cut from what they call saltbergs. As we get a really nice up close look. At the team from Euskotelu Stadi and John Aguirre. Just a little bit of a chance to recover. There is another little niggly climb that'll come in about 10 kilometres from now. So our top 3 riders on GC in this group. In fact, we might have lost Just confirming for you that no sign there of Jonathan Casido from Petrolike. We saw a bit of a technical problem earlier, possibly his derailleur just been coming a little bit loose, so I'll try and update you on that. There's still this group. This is the chase group on the ride, trying to close that gap. Tell you what really is unique is this part of China. Yeah, parts could be in the middle of Europe, likes of Canada and New Zealand in terms of some of the scenery, and then it could be in the Mediterranean. And there are just parts that, well, are just uniquely China. Now, don't underestimate the ability to ride downhill as well. That is a skill set in itself. We often talk about riders attacking on the uphill. Has been occasions where riders will tack on the downhill. They back themselves that much. They'll hit speeds of anywhere up to 100 kilometres an hour here. You've got to have a highly skilled motorbike camera crew to be able to keep up. It's not an easy job. They don't get a chance to necessarily come and do a reconnaissance. Obviously, riders riding the Grand Tours and reduce the amount of racing and spend some time looking at the bigger climbs and riding it and gaining valuable intel. That is not the case here. So, Guillermo Silva, our race leader on the front, looking to try and stay away from that chase group. Caja Rural, who have been the team that had the responsibility of defending the jersey, well, stage 2, stage 3 on the big climbs, they were the one team that managed to stay together and survive some of the big climbs in this year's tour. But obviously fatigue has started to kick in because it is Guillermo Silva who really is the only Caja rider in either of the leading 2 groups. So he's having to do it on his own. He's got no friends in that group who he can rely on, who can maybe come through or help him at least tactically work the likes of Henok, Mulubrhan over. As we see the Petrolike boys now trying to get their man back into that group. Jonathan Casido. We'll see Carlos Garcia picking up the stage victory yesterday. But it is Jonathan Casido who sits currently 3rd on GC, who was part of this group here, had a bit of a mechanical issue. And now, fortunately, he has a couple of teammates in that chase group who he'll be hoping can help ride him back up to this group and lose no further time, with still 2 stages remaining. And that is the gap, though. They will have a visual, another smaller group off the back there as well, so it could come together. Can't imagine, though, any of the great traditional sprinters are going to contest this stage victory. It will be almost a rinse and repeat of what we saw yesterday, when we saw Carlos Garcia pick up the victory over Henok Mulubrhan by the smallest of margins, and Guillermo Silva, and then it was the New Zealander Aaron Gate. Gate nowhere to be seen today. And how good does Astana here looks absolutely superb, doesn't he? Martín López. Just wonder whether he's starting to find his legs now, but he'll have the responsibility of helping Henok Mulubrhan. What he can do is maybe just put a bit of hurt on Guillermo Silva when he does come to the front, but it's got to be careful he doesn't hurt his own man as well. Just weaving their way up another one of these big passes. Another little niggly climb to come very shortly. We'll enjoy a bit of downhill. We have 19.6 kilometres to go. Yeah, nice smooth pedal cadence. Trying to make sure that you don't have any little stutter in that pedal motion, that you maintain that power evenly throughout this 360 degrees. As fatigue kicks in, you'll naturally see riders looking to try and just lean on the bigger gears. As we yeah, good to see the riders out of Istanbul, out of Turkey. Mentioned 38 different countries being represented at this year's tour. And number 64 there, Manuel Torossi, who ended up finishing third last year in this tour, riding for VF Group Bardiani. So this chase group just starting to get decimated just a little bit. Number 13, the road racing champion of Hungary, Martin Dina, trying to get up there and join the likes of John Argetti, his fellow teammate, along with Jochen Magirde. So up the last of the tough little climbs, and now it is a run through to the finish line. And the two big names, Guillermo Silva, Henok Mulubrhan, in this group of 7. Mulubrhan, well, he has the advantage of having a teammate with him. And Martín López. Euskaltel also have 2 riders in this lead group, so they have the ability of that 1-2 punch if they want to try and steal the stage victory. One attacks, the rest chase, second then hits them. Let's do Astana. So how does this start to play out? Now concentration really important here. You can see at around about the so still close to 11,000 feet. They are situated on the mountain, 3,539 metres. was that final little climb. Now they are on the descent. They will finish at around 9,500 feet. They will be enjoying this little bit of recovery, but it's pretty much downhill all the way through. It doesn't really flatten out until the final little sprint up Broadway to the finish line, which is slightly uphill, which will probably suit the likes of Guillermo, Silva and Henok, Mulubrhan, who are probably more strength-based riders. And this is the chasing group. Nice to see Unbeaten Rockets in there. That'll be Cedric Christopherson looking to try and move up. Christopherson, a quality bike rider, won a stage this year in the South Asian Islands race, in fact back in 2023, 7th in this race back in 2023. Again, still looking for that breakthrough performance. There's Cedric Bucket, Christopherson. We're hitting some wonderful speeds, aren't they, on these beautiful roads? As mentioned, anywhere up to 100 kilometres an hour. Absolutely just maxing out their gear ratios, spinning as much as they can, and then allowing gravity to give them a little bit of recovery where possible. As we see the chase group led by Luca Cavilli for VF Group Bardiani, sitting there as mentioned. There's Martin Dina of Euskaltel Ustadi riding in his riding his national colours as the road racing champion of Hungary. Got number 53, Andreas Stockbro from Unibet to Team Rockets, man from Denmark. He won a stage in the Tour of Estonia back in 2018. It's been a long time between drinks for the 28-year-old. He is a sprinter though, so if he can bridge the gap, he's certainly a man who has the ability to steal the stage if it does come down to a sprint. They've got some work to do. Gap now to 44 seconds. Interesting there to see Henok Mulubrhan sitting third wheel. Those Euskaltel Ustadi riders. He is the man who won the stage yesterday. What a moment for him. Life-changing moment, arguably smallest of margins in the sprint. Did incredibly well because it was in a large group that contested the sprint and the finish. Such was the brutal nature of stage 5, where they went up to almost 13,000 feet within the first 30 to 40 kilometres of that stage. Yeah, another good shot here of Henok Mulubrhan. Most famous rider to come out of Eritrea, of course, is Benny Gourmet, a man who won the Sprinters Green Age jersey last year at the Tour de France. And then Henok Mulubrhan, another one, in fact 6 from Eritrea in this year's race here in China. Almost a national sport, and great to see Eritrea leading the way when it comes to the continent of Africa, along with some of the riders out of Iran, etc., in terms of trying to create an explosion in terms of young men and women taking up the sport of cycling. Large crowd waiting for these riders in the city of Gonghe. It's got a lovely little vibe. So Fernando Barcello for Caja Rural, desperately trying to get onto the group in front. They have been good. Caja Rural won the race last year. So this is the third group on the road, trying to bridge up to that second group. are then looking to try and bridge the gap up to our leaders. But you do just sense, with just 10.5 kilometres to go, this stage is going to come down to these 7 riders, and the advantage probably sits with Henok Mulubrhan, because he does have his man there in Martín López. Jochen Megere and John Aguirre also have an advantage, riding for Euskotelu Stadi. A game of just now having to mark Henok Mulubrhan. Just the 8-second margin separating the 2 bike riders, and maybe today Henok Mulubrhan suggesting possibly he still has the best legs with 2 days to go. And so the chasers looking to bridge the gap up here. And probably will get there. The group in front looks a little bit more pedestrian, a little bit more laboured, and there's sometimes the danger when you do have a larger group of, say, more than 6 riders. It can just get a little bit disorganised. It can start just looking at each other. At some point they'll probably wave the white flag and go, you know what, we're not going to shut that 44-second gap down to our leaders. And so 8.6 to go, sitting speeds well above 50 kilometres an hour. In fact, I can tell you that the average speed today so far through 220 odd kilometres has been 43.3 kilometres. Prior to the climb up the Luho Yako mountain, the average speed through the first 180 kilometres of this race was around about 48 kilometres an hour. So I've had a pretty good tailwind behind them most of the day. So what is going through the mind here of Henok Mulubrhan? There he is in the colours as the continental champion of Africa. How will he work with this man here in terms of trying to grab the stage victory and trying to just cut the time down on GC? We are talking about Martín López. So just to confirm, there is an 8-second gap between our race leader, Guillermo Silva, and Henok Mulubrhan. Well, just when I thought that the chasers might catch the second group on the road, the second group looks like they have got themselves a little bit more organised. So everybody is going to have to buy in here and then rely on the group ahead to just start looking at each other a little bit more. So Guillermo Silva, well, if he could snatch the stage victory today, he'll be pretty hard to beat with 2 stages to go. If he can extend that time over Henok Mulubrhan. We know just how good he is. He is technically in the green jersey. He heads that division of this race. Really nice shot here of John Aguirre. Be challenging for that King of the Mountains jersey that currently sits on the shoulders of Simon Pelot of Li Ning Star, the Chinese trade team. 2 days ago, Simon Pelot, well, he picked up maximum points across the 3 King of the Mountain category climbs. So Edison Casillas there for Petrolike. Wouldn't it be amazing if they could pick up a second stage victory 2 days in a row? Very much a climber. There's not a rider who's recognised as a sprinter. So 32 seconds, the chasing group. Big crowd waits at the finish line. It's a slight uphill sprint. This is the third group on the road. Second group ahead of them, and then our race leaders. .75 there for Equipo Kern Farmer. Ziba Azania, one of the Spanish rider, Azania. And he is a climber. He's had 2 6th place finishes at the National Championships of Spain in the individual time trial, 15th in the actual road race last year. Born in Pamplona. But now we see Jochen Megere on the front. Coming through to take a turn then is John Aguirre. Now Guillermo Silva looking to try and just sit there on the wheel of Henok Mulubrhan. They can sense the victory, or the finish line is not far away, as they do now start to come into this stunning little town of Gonghe. Alex Tolio, the VF's Bardiani in that group as well. But you do sense the sprint should come down to Henok Mulubrhan and Guillermo Silva. The big question is, what part does Martín López from Astana play in regards to setting the stage victory up for Henok Mulubrhan and the team from Astana? Can they somehow isolate him? 2.3 kilometres to go. It's about to get real. There is about to be some serious hurt go on. Now they'll start to possibly look at each other just a little bit. There's Aguirre there in the orange 1-1, and now coming through, Megere. Henok Mulubrhan just sitting back a little bit. He wants to jump. He doesn't want to lead out. He wants to be sitting behind Guillermo Silva. He wants to pounce. He wants Guillermo Silva in the yellow to look over, wonder where he is. They're doing a nice job here, just marking the man in yellow. And now you can just start to see the other man from Astana, Martín López, looking to just drop back. They'll swing around. Henok Mulubrhan sitting on the back. They've got Silva exactly where they want him at the moment. Now Guillermo Silva. He's got to be careful here because Henok Mulubrhan could potentially jump him. Looking to just drop back is Silva in yellow. Who picks up stage 6 in what has been a remarkable stage? Started with a small peloton, a large peloton. We are down to 7. Such has been the brutality of that final climb. And now we do see Martín López from Astana. Euskaltel start to come through. Henok Mulubrhan. Now Guillermo Silva starts to look around. Silva sits there on the world of Megere. And there goes López from Astana. He'll want to try and drag Henok Mulubrhan. Mulubrhan, the African Continental Champion. And we do see the big attack though. It is coming from Alex Tolio from VS Bardiani. It's a long stretch through to the finish line. Here comes Henok Mulubrhan. Guillermo Silva sits on his wheel. Henok Mulubrhan, Silva, can he round the outside? Henok Mulubrhan, Mulubrhan will take the stage victory. Guillermo Silva, second. He'll pull back another 2 seconds, but he'll win the stage, and look what it means to him. What a race, what a performance from the African Continental Champion, the man from Eritrea. Henok Mulubrhan, who won this race 2 years ago, was 4th last year, takes 2 seconds back. And heading into stage 7 tomorrow, it'll be just a 6-second gap between these 2 street fighters, between these 2 remarkable athletes. Guillermo Silva in the yellow, Henok Mulubrhan from Astana, who got plenty of support today from Martín López. What a race. So close to winning stage 5 yesterday. Couldn't quite get it done by the smallest of margins. But today it's his. Really nice too to see the remainder of the team coming across there. Florian Kajamini, number 4 for Astana. Oh, that is wonderful bike riding. Santiago Umba there also joining in it. And look at the wonderful, wonderful camaraderie there between first and second, between these two great athletes. The road racing champion of Uruguay, the race leader Guillermo Silva, the African continental champion in Henok Mulubrhan, just acknowledging each other. Settle back, folks, tomorrow, because stage 7, we do it all again as these two street fighters will go toe-to-toe. We have a look at it one more time. And you could just have a look here, the first launch coming. It came from Alex Cholio of VS Group Bardiani. Immediately jumping on him was John Aguirre. And then we just saw Henok Mulubrhan just launch off the back wheel of his teammate Martín López. Just too strong, too fast, too good for Guillermo Silva. And will they potentially give him another second? The gap between the two, still significant. Stage victory the way of Astana. Just under 5 hours. 232 kilometres. 185 kilometres of hope. 47 kilometres of truth. Well, national hero back in his home country of Eritrea. One more final look at it. I'll tell you what, stage 7 tomorrow for Gonghe to Haiyan. 137 kilometres. First 40 kilometres is uphill. It will be the defining stage, potentially, in this tour. And you've got to say that this man here probably looked the most comfortable with his head above the clouds today. Look at the celebration. That is superb. See Savraday there in the blue jersey, leading the leading nation rider, coming across the line there in the background previously. So another good performance from him. Absolutely just did the damage, Henok Mulubrhan, on that climb today up the Luhao Yako climb. It just absolutely decimated the peloton. Put some time between himself and Guillermo Silva and just took the legs away from him. Just have a look at the sprint here. It basically just rides him off his wheel. Such is the absolute strength of this wonderful rider out of Africa from Eritrea. Got the hurt face on. Some people call it the war face, the ugly face. And then suddenly, it's just pure elation. And that is very much the smiling face. And Martín López, delighted that he's managed to get his man across the line. The Astana team pick up valuable points to ensure that they stay at a World Tour level, but more importantly, pick up a stage victory on a big, big stage. This was a really nice moment between these two athletes. He is a quality human being, isn't he, Guillermo Silva, the road racing champion of Uruguay. Man riding for Caja Rural. As we look back over the Qinghai province, the Qinghai Lake in the background, that is the final result of the stage. Henok Mulubrhan, Guillermo Silva, Martín López, and John Aguirre. They are our top 4. Lino Clement rounding out our top 10. Really good performance today from Joachim Aguirre, also Luis Castello starting. Alex Cholio, who led the sprint out, finishing in 6th. And Alejandro Callejas Santos, really good ride from him, from the Petrolite team. What a day they had yesterday. I hope you've enjoyed coverage of Stage 6. More to come. Stage 7 tomorrow. One of the highest altitude stage races in the world. We'll take you back through some of the highlights, and we look forward to having your company.